Well, hi, you guys. I hope that you are having a good day. We are going to start doing things with videos because it's probably the best way that I can get information into your head and you know what to practice. Being a VLA student, it's kind of tricky, and it's also kind of tricky being a VLA teacher. It would be a little easier if we were in a classroom together, but until that we can do that, we're going to have to do it this way. So I'm glad you're here. What I hope is that last week you watched the video about setting up your notebook. If you have not done that, then you really should do that before you start this lesson, because having a set up notebook is important as we move forward. So if once you have that done, you can pause this video and go set up your notebook and then come on back. I want you to get out your notebook and then go to that table of contents that you set up. The first thing you're going to write on the first line is addition and subtraction. And then off to the right, you're going to put a 1 because you want to indicate where the addition and subtraction section starts, so you can look it up later. Every time we take notes, we're going to add to both the table of contents and the notebook itself. So right now on that table of contents page, it should say table of contents at the top, and then on the very first line, it should say addition and subtraction, and then a 1 off to the right. All right, so we're getting started into some math, and our essential question today is how can you evaluate simple equations? This is the question that you should be able to answer at the end of this lesson, and if you can't answer it, then that's how you know whether or not you need some help. Our topic today is addition and subtraction, and there are the standards that I'm using to kind of guide this class. If you want more information about the standards and how I'm using them, we can talk about that at a different time, but we're not going to address them very much during these videos. So now go to page 1 in your notes. Remember when you set it up, you made the table of contents page, and then you turned a whole nother page, and then down in the right-hand corner, you put a 1. That's the page that you want to go to. And then you're going to divide it up so it looks like this page here. You're going to take that top margin, that top space, and divide it about in half. And in the top part, write addition and subtraction. And then right below that, write how can you evaluate simple equations. Once you get done with that, and again, you can pause the video so you can get that done, go down to the bottom of the paper. And then about 6 lines up from the bottom, you're going to draw a line all the way across the page, a horizontal line. And that creates a space for a summary. Now don't worry about that summary yet. We're going to get to those. Once you get that done, draw a vertical line about a quarter of the way over from the left, from the bottom of the top margin all the way down to that summary space that you just created. That divides the big part of that paper into a quarter and 3/4 about. The smaller portion, the smaller column, is where we're going to write some questions. And again, we're going to do that later, so don't worry about it. Where you're going to take notes during this video is in that big chunk that you just created. So your page should sort of look like what I have here. On your page, it should say addition and subtraction at the top, and then right underneath that, how can you evaluate simple equations? And then you have these lines where you've divided up your pages, and now you will take notes in the biggest section. So today we're going to review addition and subtraction, and it's going to be pretty brief and not enough to fully review the idea, but you already know how to add and subtract. I'm just going to give you some other ways of thinking about addition and subtraction. The point here is to remind you so you can figure out addition and subtraction when you need to, and also just to get these ideas in your notes so you can look them up later. So here we go. See the big rectangle and the arrow that is pointing at it with the little rectangle that says write this? A good tip for taking notes is whenever a teacher is writing, you should be writing. Whatever a teacher writes is the important stuff that they're slowing down to give you time to write. So really in your notes you don't have to have everything on this page, but the stuff inside the big rectangle is going to be really good to know. So there are 4 basic math operations, and the thing is, you already know them. The first one is addition, and then you also have subtraction, And then you have multiplication. And then you also have division. These four operations make up all of the ways that we kind of work with operations in math. Each one has a set of rules to get you to an answer, and today we're going to be focusing on addition and subtraction. We'll focus on multiplication and division in a different video. So when you add, you're putting quantities together. You have a certain amount of one thing and you have another amount of something else, and you want to see what they make together. And that's something that you already know. And when you want to add something, oftentimes you pick up a calculator. But did you know why things work out the way that they work out? It's because of the symbols in a simple equation. When we say we're going to evaluate a simple equation, what we mean is that we're going to find the combination of those quantities. For example, if we want to just take a look at 2 plus 2, I bet you already know the answer. But do you know why? Well, let's take a look at that. So I have this number line here. Let's see, I'll put a 0 there, so that makes that one -1, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What this symbol right here means is where you start on the number line. So in this particular problem, we're going to start at 2. So I'm going to put a dot at 2. And then this symbol tells us which direction we're going to move on that number line. So this is the negative direction, and this is the positive direction. And so we know we need to move to the right. And then this final symbol here tells us how many places we can go. So if we were to think of this 2 plus 2 equals as a sentence, which you can, math is just another language, it would be telling us start at 2, move in the positive direction 2 places. And so that's what we'll do. We'll start at 2, we'll move in the positive direction, so to the right, 1, 2. And we land on 4, which is exactly what we expected. We know that 2 plus 2 is 4, but that's why. Because we start at 2, we move in the positive direction 2 more places, and we end up at 4. The symbols plus and minus are just telling you which way to go on the number line. The plus means move to the right, and the minus means move to the left. So, for example, we could look at 2 minus 2 also. Here's 0, so there's 1. Oh, we better make a 2, huh? And then -1, -2, -3. So this says start at 2, so we will. And we know our directions are negative and positive. This says to move in the negative direction this time, 2 places. So start at 2, move in the negative direction 2 places. Start at 2, move in the negative direction 1, 2 places. And that puts us at 0, which is exactly what we thought. 2 minus 2 is definitely 0, and that's why. Now we can combine symbols as well. Plus and minus are just direction symbols, but when they start to get combined, they can change our direction on the number line. So let's get some numbers on this one. Now this one says start at 9, and number lines don't have to have all the numbers. You can just drop one down on there. So there's our 9. We know that we have to start at 9. That's what this number is telling us. But notice we have a negative and then another negative. This first negative says move in the negative direction. But then when we get to this next negative, it says, oh, no, turn around and go the other way. And so we have to head in the positive direction because that's what those symbols are telling us. Start at 9, go negative, turn around, and go positive 7. So 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And where do we end up? Well, there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 9 minus -7 is 16. Have you ever done this? Did you ever see a couple of negatives with a parentheses in between them and just kind of draw a big old plus sign in there? A lot of people do. And that's not a bad way to go, but it doesn't really tell you why you do that, but it's a good habit because 9 minus -7 is exactly the same as 9 plus 7 because of what the direction symbols are telling you to do. Start at 9, go in the negative direction, nope, turn around and go in the positive direction, 7 places. All right, let's do another one. Okay, this time we're starting at -10, so I'm just going to put that in my number line. And now this says, again, start at -10, go in the positive direction. Oh, wait, nope, go in the negative direction, 5 places. So -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we end up at -10, -11, 12, 13, 14, -15, which is exactly the answer that we expect. So keeping in mind that evaluating simple expressions really is just a matter of reading what this thing is trying to tell us. The first number is where you start, and then pay attention to the direction symbols, and then the last number tells you exactly how far to go. There are other ways of thinking about adding and subtracting. One way is balloons and weights. Balloons would be like representing positive numbers, weights would be negative numbers, and you can use drawings to represent an equation. For example, in number 1 here, we have a 2 and then a 3, a positive 3. And so we can represent that with balloons. If balloons are our positive numbers, we could do, and I'm just going to do circles. So this one says that I have 2 circles, and then to that I'm going to add 3 circles, 3 balloons. And how many is that? Well, it's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the answer we expected. Now, what about if you have negatives coming in? Well, this 2 is positive, so we could put a couple of balloons, and then we want to subtract 3. And so let's use weights, and I'm going to use the letter W for that. So I have 1, 2, 3 negatives. So this balloon cancels with that weight, and this balloon cancels with that weight, and all we're left with is 1 negative weight, which means that our answer is -1, which is kind of what you expect, right? The same thing is true with red and black squares. Instead of balloons and weights, you could think of maybe if you have some paper, red and black squares, you can cut them out. If we were in the classroom, you could play with the ones that I have. But you can also draw them. Red would be negative, black would be positive, and you just draw squares. And so here we have 2 black squares and 3 more black squares because of this positive. And the total number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is the number of positive squares you have. You have 5 positive squares. Now in example 2, we also have 2 positive squares, the black ones, but we have 3 negative ones. And just like balloons and weights, these kind of cancel out. And so this black cancels with that red, and this black with that red, and all you have left over is 1 red square, or 1 negative square, and so the answer is -1. So these are just some ways to kind of play with the idea, and if you've had trouble in the past when you weren't allowed a calculator, drawing these things out can be a really nice way to get to an answer. You can also play a game to practice. I'm not going to make you, this isn't your assignment, but it might be kind of fun to try. If you have a deck of cards, what you would do is shuffle it up and then flip 2 cards over and then add up the value on the cards. So if your card is black, it's positive, and if it's red, it's negative, and you would just combine them. Aces would be 1, jacks 11, queens 12, and kings 13. It's kind of a fun game, and it gives you great practice in adding and subtracting. But actually, here is your real assignment. On our Google Classroom, I've placed a link for a Kahoot. What you're going to do is click on that link and it's going to ask you to put in a name. Please put your actual name in so I can give you proper credit. And then when you're done, come back to the Google Classroom assignment page and click Turn In so I can also give you credit for that. You have a week before that shuts down, so get that done as soon as possible. But most of all, have fun. All right, so that's it. That's all I've got for you today. Our topic was addition and subtraction. We're practicing with a Kahoot. And now let's revisit this essential question. How can you evaluate simple equations? Do you have an answer to that now? I hope so. If not, then let me know so I can help you. There's office hours. Those are posted on the Google Classroom. And you could also pop into our class time and get some help then too. Well, I hope you have a good day after this and that in all things you do, you find joy. And yeah, I'm going to figure out how to turn this off. Oh, it's going crazy. So I'm going to just blabber at you for a second. Okay, I think I figured it out. All right, you guys, have a great day. Bye.